Hey friends. So I don't have a clear thesis for today's post yet. What I do have is a sense of maybe faith that one will emerge from the different threads that I'm following. The first thread is something that came to me while doing Qigong a day or two ago. I forget how I even got there. I think I was just reflecting on some experiences I've had recently where I've been lying in bed, wrestling with a handful of injuries that I've had lately, which, each of them individually has had a certain effect, but in their as a totality, as a kind of group of experiences, they have had the effect of highlighting or making real for me the impermanence of my life. And it sounds weird to say I injured my wrist and then suddenly I felt like I was mortal. It's kind of vaguely Greek and Achillean to think I've been wounded in one tiny little joint and therefore I am now vulnerable. But that is actually kind of pretty much almost exactly what happened. And that experience and the sort of gradually dawning awareness of having, in the example of my wrist injury, torn a ligament that's not likely to heal on its own, for which surgical repair options are all generally deemed by the surgeons who do them to be worse than the injury itself. So, the fact that injury provoked such a strong sense, it's like I went from not actually feeling immortal, but kind of. There's like the immortality of youth. You think you're immortal. And if you're reasonably healthy, you can string that along for a long time. But something that really, because it wasn't just that injury either, it was a handful of other things, and it's not interesting for me to go into those right now. But the upshot of it all was, I would lie in bed at night and suddenly be aware that I'm gonna die. It just hit home. It came home. For whatever reason, that's what this injury has taught me. That's what this injury and the series of kind of experiences around it. And so then there was so part of the experience that I was reflecting on the other day was the level of fear that would arise in me. And it was really borderline existential. And again, it's kind of funny to think on one level, it's kind of funny to think, okay, I injured my wrist and all of a sudden I'm having this existential terror. But because I connected it to something larger, it wasn't like I actually literally fear this impermanence. It was just that impermanence was becoming real. And when it becomes real and concrete, it changes things, and it's not like it's, the thing is, looking at death is not just a matter of looking at, well, I've been alive 47 years. if I live another 47 years, I'll be 94. That'll be a good long life. If I live even a few years after that, that'll be an even really kind of remarkably long life. If I live a few years less, that'll still be a long life. It's not about looking at the end point and being like, well, how far away is it? Do I still have time? Good. It's more about looking at timelines that are a little more concrete. Like, for example, the time it's been since I met my wife, since we got together, is about 13 years. Well, in another 13 years, I'll be 60. That's real. It's a period of time that does not feel particularly long. And I will be in a very different chapter of my life than I am right now when I arrive there. I know 60 is the new 40, and I'm with that. But I'm saying I can, within a timeline, a chunk of time that is quite familiar to me as something that I can pretty easily wrap my head around, I will be nearing retirement age. So that's one reality that has hit home, and the fear around it was something that it almost, it's one of these things where these experiences that are on one level very painful and one level very challenging, on another level produce some of the most wonderful and beautiful revelations. Because what I started to recognize was I've actually been in some ways wasting time by thinking that by not really reckoning day to day, moment to moment with the fact that my life will end. I've actually been kind of not living fully in the moment that I'm in, and assuming that there's still time left to do stuff that I might want to do, but I don't need to do it now because I have time left. And again, this is not like, I'm not thinking this consciously, but a real sort of like wake-up call will teach you if you've been doing that. A wake-up call is a moment when you go, oh, I see. Don't really want to be doing that. Don't want to spend too much time not aware of the fact that I am actually spending time. Because that means I'm not appreciating it, I'm not using it fully, I'm not really here for it because I'm kind of assuming that something better is going to happen down the road. Some other set of fortunes will be there when I get there. Not a good way to live. So this wake-up call was a really kind of a good thing. And once I got there, in my realization process, once I arrived at the fact that this was the challenge, or the sort of like the pain of this realization was actually a massive gift. I also the fear completely left. It was like it just dissolved. Because I'm not, the fear is ultimately a product of trying to avoid something that you can't avoid. It's the feeling of, oh, it's give me chastity, but not yet. It's, I know this is true, but I don't want to think about it right now. It's, I know I should be doing something else, but I feel like I can get away with one more time of not doing it, and then I'll be ready to do it the way I should do it. It's the trying to wriggle out of a bond, a pact with the universe of impermanence that we're not going to wriggle out of. That's fear. Stop doing that, and there's no fear. And another outgrowth of this, and this is where I can kind of tell, I said I don't have a thesis at the beginning, but I knew I had some related threads. Another thing that has happened is I was speaking a few days ago on this post about a practice session with my daughter on violin. I'm a musician. I practice with her daily. And I am going through all the growth and learning that you go through when you're working with a young child on something incredibly complicated and delicate and challenging, and you care deeply about their learning and you want to help, but you also have your own agenda that you have to kind of keep in check, because otherwise it muddies up the work that the real work of helping her find her own way into music. And so if you didn't catch my last couple of posts, check them out. I talked quite a bit about that. And today we had the most spectacular practice session. It was hours. We went for hours, at least definitely over 2 hours. And we were being playful the whole time. It was all just silliness and running and letting her be silly, letting her like run around and try to lick me if I said something when I wasn't supposed to say something. It was just this joyous day. And I've noticed, like this morning, my daughter woke up at like 4 a.m. For whatever reason, she woke up at 4 a.m. And she'd been coughing in the night, and I was like, oh man, like she really needs rest. She didn't go to bed early. She didn't go to bed early enough that waking up at 4 a.m. was in any way acceptable. And I went into her room, and I lay down with her, and I stroked her back, and I thought she was maybe going back to sleep, but then she wasn't. She kept sitting up. It's that thing of like you're lying in the dark and you're feeling their energy settle, and then they move, and you're like, oh shit, she's not actually settling. This went on for at least 90 minutes. It was well past 5:30 when she finally went back to sleep. And then she slept until almost 9, which was what she needed. But in those situations, as a parent or just as a human being who also didn't go to bed that early and woke up at 4, it's really easy to get frustrated and really easy to be, talk about a time when you think that something better is coming, right? When you're up at 4 in the morning and your kid doesn't want to go to sleep, you're wishing you were somewhere else. You're wishing something else was happening. But I noticed myself able in the moment, and I've noticed this. It wasn't the first time today. I've had some practice. She's been warming me up because I've had a couple days now where she woke up in the middle of the night, needed me, whatever. And I have had the ability to see what's happening. That I'm lying in a bed with my child, and she's rolling around and talking and snuggling up to me and then just moving away, and whatever she's doing, I'm just trying to get her to go back to sleep. And I've been able to realize this is my life with my daughter right now. Not when she goes to sleep and I wake up in the morning and I'm better rested and I'm just more game for hanging out. That's not when life is happening. Life is happening right now. It's also happening when I wake up in the morning and have a great time, but it's not happening then when it's happening now in a different situation. It's only ever happening now. And being able to grab that and say, so I'm here 100% fully for this right now. This is life. Like on my deathbed, if I think back to the moments of being with my child when she was young, asking questions, having a bad dream, needing to ask something so that she can put her mind at ease, needing to ask something because she's just curious, needing to say something because a thought came into her head and she just has energy right now, and it doesn't matter what time of day it is or what time of night it is. When else is life happening? It's happening now, then. It's happening in those moments, always. And to bring a real-time awareness of that into my life feels like a huge step. Because now I'm not trying to just get through moments that might be challenging, might be somewhat difficult. I'm actually just living each moment. And beautiful things happen. Amazing things happen. Even and especially in the moments when we just our kind of habitual ego self is inclined to just want to turn out the lights and close the door and just walk away. The ego doesn't want to let go that much to be able to be present for what comes through in those moments. So it feels like a massive gift to have been moved into a place where I can catch that. Now, we'll see if it sticks. We'll see how, I want to be optimistic and say it's been happening a lot more lately. I feel like I am much more stably oriented in that way. As in, like, multiple times a day, I'm like, this is my life. Right now. Here we are. So, I feel like, if anything, I'm on a kind of upward curve of being connected in that way. But yeah, that's where I am today. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon.